Some things in life break not because they're weak, a broken bar, but because you tried too hard to hold them. Some relationships crumble not because love wasn't real, a broken bar, but because you pushed to make it what it wasn't ready to become. And sometimes, dreams fall apart, and not because they weren't meant for you, but because you were forcing them to bloom in winter. There's a moment in every soul's journey when you come face to face with this truth. You cannot force what's not ready, you cannot chase what wants to run, and you cannot speed up a process that was meant to shape you through patience. We've been taught that if we want something, we should go after it with everything we've got, that if it's slipping through our fingers, we should grip tighter, that if we're losing control, we should fight harder. But the irony of it all is this: the tighter you squeeze, the more it escapes. The harder you push, the more resistance you face. The louder you scream, the less you're heard, because real power doesn't come from force, it comes from flow. You see, the moment you start forcing love, it stops being love. The moment you start forcing success, it stops being fulfillment. The moment you start forcing healing, it becomes another form of pressure. And when you force life to fit your expectations, you rob yourself of the beauty of what could have unfolded naturally. There's a certain kind of heartbreak that comes not from losing something, but from realizing you tried too hard to make it stay. You gave more than you had. You lowered your boundaries. You tolerated what should have never been excused. Not because you were weak, but because you believed in the potential of it all. And while your belief was beautiful, the forcing was destructive. We don't talk enough about the damage we do to ourselves trying to hold on to what's falling apart. We drain our own energy. We delay our own healing. We sacrifice our dignity just to keep something that was never aligned with our peace. But here's the truth: if it's meant for you, you won't have to force it. If it's truly yours, it won't require you to beg, chase, or break yourself. And if something only survives through pressure, it's not thriving, it's suffocating. Think about the strongest trees. They grow slowly. They don't rush. They don't force their roots to deepen. They simply surrender to the seasons. Storms come, winds blow, leaves fall, and still, they grow, because nature knows that growth doesn't happen through force. It happens through surrender. Now let me tell you a story, and one that carries the soul of this message in the simplest, yet most powerful way. There was once a man named Elias, a humble artist who loved creating beauty out of simplicity. He painted not for fame or money, but because his heart was drawn to it. Every brushstroke was therapy. Every canvas was a page from his soul. One day, an art collector came into his studio, marveled at his work, and told him, "You could be big, really big, if only you'd paint what sells, what's trending." For the first time, Elias considered it. He thought about fame. He thought about the recognition he'd never had. And so, he began to force it. He studied the trends. He copied the styles. He painted for attention, not expression. He worked day and night, pushing his creativity to match the market's demand. But the more he forced it, the more it failed. His colors dulled. His passion faded. His art felt hollow. The collectors stopped coming. The buyers disappeared. Even his hands, once full of flow, began to shake with frustration. One night, he sat in front of a blank canvas, and for the first time in years, he cried, not because of failure, but because he'd lost himself. He whispered to the silence, "What happened to me?" And in the stillness, the answer came not in words, but in feeling. You stopped flowing. You started forcing. The next day, Elias picked up his brush again, but this time, he painted with no plan. He let his soul speak again. He let go of the need to impress. He surrendered to the process. And as the colors blended freely, so did his spirit. Weeks later, someone saw his new work and said, "He's a broken bar, this is magic." But Elias just smiled, because the magic wasn't in the paint, it was in the freedom. That's what happens when you stop forcing. You rediscover your flow. You remember who you are. You reconnect with peace. You see, there's a kind of effort that's beautiful, effort rooted in love, intention, and presence. But there's also a kind of effort that's toxic, effort rooted in fear, desperation, and control. The first kind creates, the second kind destroys. We have to learn the difference. We have to ask ourselves, am I flowing? Or am I forcing? Am I holding on because it's right, or because I'm afraid to let go? Am I pushing because my soul is calling me forward? or because I'm afraid of stillness. Because the more you force something that isn't aligned with your growth, the more pain you'll feel. You'll feel stuck, anxious, restless, not because you're broken, but because you're out of rhythm with your true nature. You weren't born to chase. You were born to attract. You weren't meant to force connections. You were meant to build them naturally, gently, through truth and patience. Even love, when forced, loses its light. You can't beg someone to stay and expect peace. You can't force someone to understand you and expect clarity. You can't push someone to love you the way you love them and expect wholeness. Real love doesn't require convincing. It simply exists. The same goes for your dreams. You can hustle all you want, but if it's coming from pressure, if you're constantly exhausted, constantly overwhelmed, maybe it's not the dream that's wrong. Maybe it's the way you're trying to make it happen. Because timing matters, alignment matters, and forcing things out of season will never give you the fruit you're hoping for. There's a difference between persistence and resistance. Persistence means you keep showing up, but you stay rooted in patience. Resistance means you keep pushing, but you're constantly frustrated. One builds strength, the other burns you out. You don't have to force your way into spaces that aren't meant for you. You don't have to beg for opportunities, chase love, or demand validation, because what's truly aligned will always find its way to you if you stop running and start trusting. There's a quiet power in letting go of control, letting go of timelines, letting go of the belief that you have to force everything to happen, because you don't. Sometimes, the most courageous thing you can do is stop chasing, stop proving, stop pushing, and just a broken bar be. Let things come, let things go. Let life unfold without needing to manipulate it every step of the way. Because when you stop forcing, you start flowing. And when you start flowing, you align with everything that's meant for you. So if something feels heavy, forced, chaotic, a pause. If something keeps slipping no matter how hard you try to hold it, to let go. If a door keeps closing no matter how hard you push on, maybe it's not your door. Let it be. Because life has a rhythm, and the more you fight it, the more you suffer. But the moment you surrender, the moment you trust it, all begins to make sense. What's meant for you will not require you to betray yourself. It will not require you to suffer endlessly. It will not require you to force, to beg, to shrink. It will come with ease, not because it's easy, but because it's right. And in that stillness, in that surrender, you will finally feel what you've been chasing all along. Peace. So take a breath, loosen your grip, trust the timing, and remember this: the more you force it, the more it fails. But the more you flow, the more it finds you.